Hi, this is John Pettigrew, and you're listening to Talking Through My Hat, a podcast that explores bookish businesses, the fantastic people who create them, and what those people have learned. I'm a hat wearer, a recovering editor, and the creator of Futureproofs, enabling editors and authors to work better online. To find out more, visit wearefutureproofs.com or follow me on Twitter at John_Pettigrew. Hello and welcome to this week's Talking Through My Hat. Today I'm talking with Fiona Spencer-Thomas, literary agent, book publicist, and now also publisher of STA Books. So welcome to the podcast, Fiona.
Nice to meet you.
So you've been in the publishing industry for a while. We were just having a little chat beforehand. What attracted you to becoming a publicist and an agent in the first place?
Well, the agent sort of was a morphing process, but the publicity was something I did from my 20s. I ended up being at the Arts Council, working in festivals, and I couldn't bear it because the guy I worked for literally didn't do anything. So I left, having said, "Have you got another job in the Arts Council? Because I really want to work here. It's wonderful." And they said, no, you haven't really given it a chance. I said, well, actually, I've been offered every job I've worked in so far, so I think I have given it a chance. And so I went and did a journalism course, journalism course, at London College of Printing. And I looked for a job that would sort of fill up the other 4 days a week. Ended up with a company called James Service, which did publicity for books, and I didn't really know what that involved at all.
It's often the way with your first jobs, isn't it? You're not sure what you're getting into.
I know. Boyfriend at the time said, "Oh, what's that about?" And I said, "I have no idea, but I just think he seems a nice chap, and it sounds quite interesting." And of course, I found out, and at the time there were very few publicity companies. There were about 3, and it was more reactive in publishing houses as opposed to proactive. And we used to take on some very interesting projects, including sort of Guinness Book of Records and all sorts of Guinness books. And we had some wonderful people to work for, but that's how it started.
So why did you then start your own agency, becoming a full-blown agent?
I was with him for 4 years, and then I set up as a freelance publicist.
Okay.
And then as a full-blown agent, that was probably about 11 years ago. It was more by luck, design, or maybe not luck, I don't know. But anyway, I came across this book on Tutankhamun, and I said I'd try and place it, but of course that's not really what I do. Anyway, I did place it. I placed it with Macmillan. And it was quite a successful book. In fact, it's still out there. I republished it on Amazon. And it also went with a drama documentary. Okay. And it just so happened I had a bit part in that as well.
Excellent. Bit of TV work on the CV there.
Yes. It went out on ITV about 3 times. 3 or 4 times. Yeah. So it was good. It was good. And then after that, I did 1 or 2, but still my main thing was publicity. Yeah. And gradually became more and more.
Just snowballed and...
It snowballed, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So how do you describe your business now?
Well, when people ask me what I do, I say I'm a literary agent. A lot of people don't know what you do. And so I just said, well, basically you write a book, and hopefully I find you a publisher to sell it to. I like non-fiction best, I have to say, because it's something that you can get your teeth into. And from a publicity point of view, I tend to put my publicity hat on when I look at books and think, oh, you could do this. And when I pitch, I say, this person's got an Oscar for so-and-so. One of my authors does that. I'm not actually.
Yeah, so you take on things that you are passionate about, and I think this is kind of quite common for agents, isn't it? It's all about the book. You've got to love the project, and then you're trying to find the other people, the editors who will love it too, based on, as you say, their market, their subject area, what you know about them in the past, what they've acquired, that kind of stuff.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And it is a taste thing. For example, I think this particular crime book, which has humour in it, it's sort of set in the 60s. I think I burst out laughing when I was reading it on the tube, and everybody kind of looked at
That's always a good sign.
Laughing. Yeah, but it's very violent as well. So I sent it to one editor, and she said, "Oh well, I can't quite sort of marry up the idea of this sort of violent crime novel with humour." Look at James Bond, for heaven's sake.
Yeah. Well, this is the joy. This is the thing about the publicity side of it, isn't it? That we're publishing so much, more and more and more stuff, particularly with the rise of the self-publisher. It's hundreds of thousands of novels a year, kind of effectively being published on Amazon. How do you stand out from the crowd? Is it about, how do you find the audience?
I think it's quite interesting. I do, to a certain extent, rely on proactive authors.
Platform.
I've got one...
Platform, to use the terrible word.
I have one author called Hugh Crow who does talks and things. And he talks to everybody, and he sells his book to the taxi driver and things.
Yeah.
And they put up a review and things like that. So in that way it works. But some people just aren't like that. They're not that outgoing and effective in that sense. So I have to try and do more with them. I've got one fantastic crime writer. I've got two of his books out, but we're finding it difficult to sell because I don't know, it just isn't working. But they're really well written. I've had them optioned for films in the past as well. So
it's the thing. It's tricky, isn't it? It's one of the things that puzzles me a little about a lot of the rhetoric around self-publishing. These people say, "Oh well, yes, every author can publish their own book," and this is very true. But not every author has the inclination or the skill to market, publicise, sell, edit, design, everything their own book. Those things, I say a lot. Authorship doesn't necessarily lend itself to the extrovert personality type that's gonna find the joy in going out and marketing and publicising stuff.
I did start writing a book called How to Self-Edit. You mentioned editing, and in a way I'm quite. Well, maybe I will finish it, but it's slightly. I've only got 2,000 words on it. But no, what I did was I interviewed a lot of very high-powered publishers and commissioning editors about how their tips for it. And I had some wonderful responses, including one which I thought was very good and I'd never thought of or heard before, was that you should stand up and read it out loud. And one of my big tips is that you should actually walk away from your book for a month or so and just leave it. Don't even look at it. Do nothing.
Let it get out of your head to an extent.
And then you go back, and in fact, somebody just said that they've just read their play, actually, after. He said, I don't recognise it. I don't remember writing it. That's slightly extreme, because a month or two is not the same. But, that you then come at it as if you were somebody else.
Well, the problem with self-editing is always that if you go straight back over something you've written, you always read what you meant to write, not what you actually did write.
Yes.
And so, because you know in your head what all the shape was, you've got to leave it and get all of those associations out, so you come back and just face the text.
As if I'm reading your book. But I wrote it really, and I think, oh God, what a load of rubbish. Oh, what? No, that's. Oh, I missed this link. The missing links, so they're quite funny as well in novels.
Where the scene suddenly takes a left turn halfway through, and you think, actually, this doesn't make any sense anymore. What happened?
Well, the funniest book, it was a very good book actually, that I read in manuscript once, was when the protagonist had got on a boat to be able to go out to sea, a rowing boat or a little boat, to go out to sea to discuss their plot unoverheard,
Yeah.
And then one of them turned around and said, "Waiter."
Yes, that was not a rowing boat anymore, I think. But these things are so easy to do when you're writing, and this is the thing with editing. You've got to pick up on these things, or the reader certainly will.
Yes,
and they'll get a bit cross about it.
Exactly.
Well, that's fascinating. So, you say you spent some years working for somebody else, for the Arts Council, for an employer. You've been freelance. You're running the agency and stuff. How do you kind of go about learning to run a business? Are you the sort of person who will read business books? Do you kind of read the blogs? Do you listen to talks? Go and find people to advise you? I mean, what's your kind of, or do you just muddle along and work it out?
I have been to conferences. Things like I attend the things at the London Book Fair that I think will be interesting and give me some more information and make me do things hopefully better. But I actually also am meeting people. But there was one lady I met who was a speaker, and something came up, and I do know her apart from there at Hodder, and something came up about audiobooks.
Right.
Just wanted a bit of advice about, they seem to be asking for the earth.
Yeah.
And I thought that I should. So I rang her, and she was really helpful. And I managed to get it for twice the price they offered, and half the territory, with a cut-off period as well.
Right. And
she approved all my suggestions and said no, and you could also do this, and that's a good thing, and retain that. And, so that's useful networking. And
kind of the skills improvement, the networking side, and
then I realised at one point, that publicity-wise, you had to get into all the new social media that was going on to stay up there.
Yeah.
And so I do that as well.
Yeah.
So good at Facebook. I don't like Facebook. I don't know why, but I love Twitter.
Yeah. Publishing and Twitter seem to go together very well, don't they? So that's the kind of the publishing side of the business. Do you still think about some of the more businessy sides? Because obviously you'd be doing it for, I think you said, the agency's about 11 years old now. When you think about, stuff like finance and, obviously you spend a lot of time on contracts as an agent. How do you learn to do those things better? Is it the same? You kind of go to conferences, or do you kind of delegate your finance to an accountant? I know I delegate a lot of that to my accountant.
No, I do all that.
Okay.
So, but I do have an accountant to do my end of year's accounts, but I don't. I do all the keeping of the books myself, and I feel like an accountant myself sometimes. It makes me very depressed. every half year when all the royalties start coming in, and some of the older books, they're the first ones. You have a royalty of £10. Been around for years and years.
Yeah.
And, oh God, I've got to do all the distribution of this, to earn myself my
£1.50 or whatever it is. Yeah.
Actually, is it worth it? And I think, oh well, shall I give it back to the author and let them have it direct, and I'll forget my bit now. Oh, what if it's optioned? What if somebody wants to make a documentary of this one? No, I think I'll keep it.
That's it. You can't just gloss over the details when you're running a business, can you? I say, when it comes to finance, I do my own books because you have to know where the money is. Yeah. And I use my accountant to tell me about VAT and tax and stuff like that. Are you the sort of person you tend to be keep that under your own control? All of that.
Well, thing? I'm quite sharp because not every publisher is. They do make mistakes sometimes. Yeah. They miss things, or they, it's not intentional or anything. In most cases. One case that shall be not mentioned. Probably was intentional. But,
do you find their systems are getting a bit better these days? Because, we see lots of technology coming in. They're supposed to have better platforms for looking after stuff for finance. Or is it still they're kind of winging it?
Well, I think they're getting better, actually. Some of them give you so much information. Hodder, for example, sends me reams of paper
I'm still sending it in. They're still sending it in paper.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's not hugely helpful.
Well, I prefer it. Otherwise, I have to print it out myself.
Oh, well, maybe
more time.
Yeah.
But I mean, but they really give you detail, lots and lots of detail, which is nice. It's nice for the author.
Well, because I'm sure the author would be really happy to know how many copies and where and all this.
And some of them another publisher just says Chinese rights sold, but they don't tell you to which publisher.
Yeah.
I have to ask that question.
You dig.
I said, well, why don't you factor that into your program? Oh, no, we can't do that. Oh, well. Ask every time.
Oh, dear. Only you've been, knocking around this industry for a little while now. You've seen a lot of change. As you say, audiobooks become big the last couple of years. The rise of ebooks, you're now doing some of your own ebooks. Where do you see it kind of going the next few years? Do you have a plan for where you think it's going and the kind of thing you're picking up for that? Or are you more reactive and you prefer to see what happens?
Well, in when I first started doing this, the contracts were pretty formulaic that I had to deal with.
Uh-huh.
And they used to say things like electronic books invented and other systems as yet uninvented.
Uh-huh.
I'd scratch those out.
Excellent, forward-looking.
I mean, I thought, how can you have the rights to something that hasn't even been invented? That is completely... Anyway, so ebooks weren't they knew, I didn't.
Yeah.
And as a result, I retained the rights to quite a few ebooks, which was nice. And then they started asking me for them.
Yeah.
So I was able to negotiate a better than 25% rate, which was lucky.
Yeah.
So as far as looking in the future is concerned, technology is moving so fast, I have no idea.
Are there any other similar clauses you're having to push back against at the moment? Because as you say, that publishers, it's in their interest to grab as much as they can.
Oh, quite. I never, ever, ever give away drama rights or merchandising rights or cartoon rights. Not very relevant for most things, but and those kind of film and TV rights.
Yeah.
No. They're not usually fast about that.
So what is it that you find hardest then, kind of day to day, about running your business? Obviously there's some bits of it that we all love and that's what we want to be doing. What are the bits that you try and avoid?
Well, the most boring is royalties, distribution. And the hardest part is the rejections. You pitch a book and you're full of enthusiasm and then they don't want to take it on. And it can be... And then you have to transmit that onto the author. Double whammy. You get it, and then they get it.
Yeah, because you often get...
And you have to give it.
Yeah, because you often hear, for authors, there's a lot of talk about how hard it is as an author. You have to send all your stuff off, and you get this rejection, you've got to deal with it. Of course, as an agent, you're dealing with that for all your clients all the time, for everything that's on offer. You're... I mean, do you have to develop a very thick skin, or is it a certain amount of dissociation, just treating it as a business decision? I mean, how do you deal with that colossal amount of continuous rejection?
Well, I feel slightly detached because it's not my decision.
Uh-huh.
If I pitch something, it's their decision.
Yeah.
And sometimes I go back and say, yes, but usually they've made their mind up. But sometimes people are kind of not quite sure.
Uh-huh.
A little bit more persuasion about how good it's going to be.
Yeah.
I think those are probably the hardest parts for me. The most soul-destroying part.
Yeah. So what have you learned about yourself from kind of running the business over the years? Do you still think of yourself the same way that you did back in those early days as a publicist?
I think one of the most interesting things is about dealing with all sorts of different people like that is that they're so different.
Yeah.
And some people are very sensitive, other people are very like sort of bulls in china shop. Some people think they're absolutely wonderful. Some people have no confidence at all. Somehow you've got to tread this wary, cautious road alongside them or through them or whatever. Actually make whatever project it is work. So that's quite interesting. And I've had some very weird, all of us as publicists have had some very weird experiences with rather unusual people. It's been a very interesting, I think I've learned to be more patient and more understanding, perhaps. Maybe sometimes.
So what's the thing then that keeps you coming back every day to face the pile of rejection letters and the royalty statements and everything else? What's if those aren't the things that you want, what's the thing that brings you back?
The next winning one. The idea that somebody's going to say yes next time. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got 2 at the moment who I think about to offer. And that's very nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to know. It's nice.
Getting through that next stage. And yes, and you can tell the author yes instead of having to tell them no.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that's been a really interesting conversation. Thanks very much for your time, Fiona.
Oh, lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was Talking Through My Hat, a podcast by John Pettigrew, founder of We Are Futureproofs. Please let me know your thoughts by leaving a review at Apple Podcasts or by commenting on the website, myhat.wearefutureproofs.com. You can subscribe to this channel at Apple Podcasts, Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Our theme music is from hooksounds.com.